Nowadays. All right. Hello, and welcome to the first speaker of the Engineer Speak series. I'm Francis Fish, president of the University of Delaware chapter of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. Tonight our guest speaker is Rob Blomquist, and now a bit more about Mr. Blomquist. He was born July 1963 in Wilmington, Delaware, fifth of 9 children. His dad was a machinist. He was the only child in his family who finished a degree, and he was fascinated with all things mechanical. As a teen, he rebuilt his 1974 Buick with his dad's help. He attained an associate's degree in mechanical engineering from Del Tech in 1985. He worked as a full-time nuclear technician with a part-time night school to finish a bachelor's of engineering, all the while raising a young family. His bachelor's of engineering is from Widener, which he earned in 1994. As a system engineer for the Peach Bottom Reactor water purification system, he was instrumental in reducing the annual operation budget by over $1 million. Lots of free overtime to achieve this. The president wore a chicken suit in celebration. He earned a U.S. patent for improved method and design to attach water purification filters in commercial water purification vessels. He finished a marathon in 1997. As a systems engineer for the main turbine and generator at Hope Creek, he led a team to reduce the annual operating budget by about $500,000. He also called the balanced correction for the turbine a high-risk and high-reward task. In 2003, he attained his professional engineering license. From 2004 to 2008, he successfully started up and managed his own engineering firm. At its peak, he had 12 direct reports and an annual gross revenue of over $800,000. His biggest project was approval of an 18-lot subdivision in Maryland. The recession ended the company, and he joined the firm of Sargent and Lundy. He is currently the lead engineer for retrofit of a newer, larger generator at Peach. He has been promoted to management at Sargent and Lundy to fill a technical consultant role. Wow. I don't know if there's anything left for you to say about yourself. I would now like to turn it over to Rob Blomquist.
Thank you, Francis. I'm humbled to be asked to come here and give a little talk, and it's my honor to speak here tonight. I appreciate you all coming to hear, and for your efforts, I'd like to reward you with a valuable glimpse of what I believe your future career will be. And this is a glimpse that I wish I would have had when I was in your position, going through school. The life of an engineer, the course that your career can take, can be many different paths. And there's not a lot of information out there available to help you navigate that path. You probably have a dream in your mind as to where you'd like to take your career or your work life, but there's few people that can give you actual insight as to which way you should go to achieve that goal. I met somebody the other day, a young lady who is aspiring to be a mechanical engineer, and she wants to design roller coasters for Disney. But the road to get there isn't so clear. I found that, I don't know about your counselors, but my guidance counselor was almost clueless on how to help me, put out the roadmap of how to get to where I wanted to go. So what I like to do is answer a lot of questions I know you probably have in your mind as to where your career is headed and where you want to steer your ship of your career, if you will. So I want to give you a glimpse into, I was asked to speak about the life of a professional engineer. So I'll get into that. First, I'd like to establish, so a licensed engineer, who cares? Who cares about license? Why should I even care about that? Let me give you the why first. Let me make you care first so that you can listen to the next part rather than turn down the shades and just tune me out, right? So when you say you have a professional engineer's license, it immediately establishes credibility with like a potential employer or your colleagues. It means that you didn't party in school and you at least meet the minimum standards that the profession has set out. So it establishes your right to be there in the field and practice, basically. In the next bullet, it gets you out of the trenches and into designing. And what I mean by that is if you've ever been in the hospital and you know anybody that works in the hospital, it's sort of like the relationship between the head nurse and the CNAs, the certified nursing assistants that work for them. You're like the head nurse, if you will, and you have people working for you. In other words, you have people that are called like designers, that are basically people who do the drafting and make the design come to life. And you might say, well, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy drawing the lines, making the shapes, and making it come to life. Well, if you do, don't become a licensed professional engineer because you'll be dangerous to the public. And what I mean by that is if you are the guy that gets into the weeds, into the details of the design and making sure all the lines are right and making sure every last little calculation is right, you'll miss the big picture. And you're the big picture guy. You're the guy keeping, or gal, if you will, excuse me, that are keeping everybody safe. You can't be so far into the forest that you forget, into the trees, you forget what the forest looks like. You're the guy. So let me give you a scenario. And I did this once, and I found out this the hard way. A client hired me to do a project, and there was a certain budget to get it done. It was a fair price, and I hired some designers. Some of them were from the University of Delaware to help me get it done, and I gave them a leash to go do it. I gave them the overall concept of what we needed to get done, and I turned it loose. Brilliant engineers. I still like them, but what happened is I wasn't intrusive enough into what they were doing, and 2 weeks later, we had burned through half of the budget, and I looked at what had been achieved at that point, and their concept of what I thought I told them was 50 miles an hour in the wrong direction, right? They explained to me, why they did what they did, and to some, I could see why they thought that, but I hadn't given it enough care and feeding, if you will, to find out what they were really doing and make sure they were on the right path. So as a licensed professional engineer, you have to be intrusive and monitor almost on a daily basis where your designer and your draftsman are going with the design. And part of that is the design inputs change almost daily. The client will call and say, hey, actually, I was just kidding. We want the pipe network over here. And so you have to hurry up and tell your designers, you have to pull a meeting together, you have to increase the budget, you have to do a lot of things. So especially people that haven't done that sort of project before, you have to give it the care and feeding it really needs. So a license, why get it? Well, the last bullet says more opportunities. And so if you ever had a dream of opening your own business someday, maybe you want to open a consultancy, call your own shots, if you will. Maybe when you retire someday, that day will be here before you know it. You can open it, you can hang your own shingle, if you will. That's always a lot of people's dream. My dream is when I get closer to retirement, that I have a tinkering shop where, and I put my advertisement out on the internet or the Yellow Page or whatever, and people come to me and I help them get patents. I help them develop their patents. Maybe I'll be a little piece of the action if it's the next paperclip or the next whatever it happens to be. That, to me, that's exciting. That gets my adrenaline going. By the way, I had somebody call me one day. They said, I've got a constant perpetual motion machine. And a famous rock star was attached to it, was funding his project. He says, I just need an engineer to help me develop my project. I see you're a licensed engineer, you're in the Yellow Pages, so I'd like to present it to you and get you by. And I said, don't bother, because there is no such thing. He says, oh, you're just like the rest of them. So, just a little side story. Advice for getting a license. So now that I hopefully got you the idea that you probably want to ultimately get a license, because I don't think you want to stay the person that is always in the weeds, always in the details, doing the, I can tell you, and I've done it, I know AutoCAD, very well. It's not a brag, it's only because I've done so many years of it, right? But I don't really want to do it anymore. I don't want to cut that line anymore. I don't want to trim it anymore. I don't want to be in the weeds anymore. I want to be the big picture guy, right? That has the initial design concept and making sure that it's come to closure. And I want to be the DI guy for the next idea, right? I don't want to be like the draftsman. You didn't come here to be a draftsman, did you? So in order to realize your designer dream, you need a license. So to get a license, take the review courses. Your next step is the engineering training course and exam. 70% of the people that take the prep course pass, 40% that pass without taking the prep course. So the numbers don't lie. And don't be that one that says, I don't want to take the EIT in my junior year or early in my senior year. Don't make that mistake. Because when you walk out of here with your degree, everything that you learned is going to dribble out your left ear. And if you try to take the EIT 4 or 5 years later, it's just going to be rough going, rough sledding. Buy the study materials. There's really good study materials out there that really help you focus on what you need to study, right? It's like drinking from a fire hose, right? You're not going to drink it all. And the study material helps you focus on what to drink, if I could use that. I went over the next bullet. Take the practice exam designed by the National Council of Engineers. And then the last one's pretty important. You don't want to discount the fact that I won't kid you, it's hard work and you've got to spend some time studying. We've all heard of the genius passing with minimal study, but I'm not one of those people, and I don't think, and chances are you aren't either, so don't kid yourself. Do the study, go the distance. It's worth it. So the typical life of a PE, you oversee design teams from conceptual design through preliminary through final, and the only reason why you really exist is because you have a budget to do that. But you're the big picture guy. You're making sure that when you get to the end, the budget's not all burnt, right? And you have a design that the reviewing authority will actually approve. Meaning that I've taken a lot of projects in front of, like, say, the city of Newark, Delaware, and say, hey, this is the design, it meets all the regulations, and they either say yes or no. It does or it doesn't. And if it doesn't meet it, they'll tell me why, and I'll have to go do it back and do it for free, make all the corrections for free. So you've got to stay on the big picture to make sure that the design does what it's set out to do, it meets all the regulations, and you're not going to kill somebody. It's not unsafe. The second to last bullet is very important. The assumptions, the design assumptions, right? Those are critical. The client has to tell you what he wants out of this thing. Do you want a rocket that goes into suborbit, or do you want a rocket that goes to the moon? And the design inputs. if you don't design it to ASME code, what are you designing it to? Those are critical. Say I'm designing it for the reactor vessel. I know that the reactor vessel goes up to about 1,050 pounds. I better design something that holds 1,050 pounds. That's one of the design inputs. So one of the first things I check when the designer is putting the calculations together and design together is what are his inputs, what are his assumptions, what unverified assumptions are there out there. For example, maybe we have to do a walk down to make sure that the pipe is in fact Schedule 40 or Schedule 80, or that it's going to fit in the field. You have to list all those unverified assumptions, and then when the equipment is accessible because it's out of service or whatever, you've got to go check those out. And one other thing I'd like to say about this is don't be the guy that designs everything from your desk. Get up out of the desk. Go talk to the people you're working with. Go face to face and talk to them. And most importantly, go out to the field where this thing is going to go and walk it down. Make sure it's going to fit. Talk to the maintenance guy that's going to operate those valves or the pump or whatever it happens to be. Make sure it's accessible. Make sure it's not in an area where the guy's never going to be able to get to it, where it's underwater or what have you. You don't know until you know. You've got to go out there and lay eyeballs on this stuff. If you don't do that, you're going to fail, and you could even hurt somebody. Don't be a desk designer. So the risk you have is, so if you're a licensed engineer, you represent the state of Delaware in saying that the design meets minimum public health and safety standards. So actually you're a state agent saying, yes, fairly the state of Delaware, to the people of the state of Delaware, is going to be safe. So that's a big responsibility to assume. Your stamp safeguards lives. Don't stamp anything unless it's safe, right? Until you know personally that it's safe. Don't be the guy that says, hey, gets a phone call and somebody on the other end says, hey, I want you to review my drawings and I'll give you $5,000 if you stamp them. And you never saw it before. Now, when you go to court because it failed and somebody got that $5,000, it would mean a whole lot of it. So don't be that guy. Be personally involved, check into the numbers yourself, into the details, and talking to the designers. You can't phone it in. You must be actively oversee the design, and you must walk it down. I made those points earlier. So, life of a PE, you're a valued person because there's no engineering firm without at least one licensed engineer. You're a highly valued person in the firm. You're a key person. You're central to the existence of the firm. If you walk away, the firm goes away. So you don't get pushed around in the firm. Licensed engineers usually assume senior positions. That lends to my previous point. A typical day involves discussing design concepts with the designer and checking the work, making sure that they are getting to the end point that you envision, and listening to them, valuing their input. If they're telling you, hey, this isn't going to work, listen to them and find a way to make it work. Everyone on the design team is just as important as the next guy. Your design team should respect you and want to talk to you, and you should be easily approachable by them. Again, I can't say enough, you can't afford to stay in the details. You can't afford to check Joe's calculation all day and make sure you got it right. You have to have a gut feel for things. You got to say that, hey, listen, that should be a Schedule 80 pipe. I don't know what calculation you're doing, but Schedule 40 is not going to get it. You're doing something, not doing something. And you got to be able to pull the baloney flag, say that you can keep the big picture. Benefits, it's rich in purpose. Like for example, right now I'm the lead engineer to put the 1,300 megawatt generator in the Peach Box. We're putting a brand new generator in. That generator will light up a city the size of Philadelphia. That lighting and electricity is highly needed. Our way of life depends on electricity. So what greater purpose? It's high in purpose. There's so many careers out there that don't have that amount of purpose to them. So it's for a great cause. You get to think about the big picture all the time, and you get to be the inventor, the idea guy. That's who I want to be. I don't want to be the guy doing the drafting and all the meaning of it. It's a reasonably good standard of living. I won't kid you. I'm never going to be a millionaire. But, I really don't care about that. I'm not in it for that so much. But it does afford you a good standard of living. Allows time and space for innovation. I love to innovate. I love to invent. I like to come up with new ideas, and it affords you the space and time to do that. You don't want a boss coming up to you and saying, listen, how come you don't have the lines done yet? How come you don't have that drawing done? It's because you've been daydreaming about the next design or how to make this better. Right? You're not allowed to do that. So you have this time and space to do that. You're valued and you're demanded. I can tell you that this year so far I've gotten maybe 10 to 12 genuine offers to go work somewhere else. The fracking industry is going nuts, right? I get a lot of offers from there. Bloom Energy offered me a job. It's just right here in Newark. So if you have experience, you're a licensed guy, the country, just from a patriotic standpoint, if you will, the country needs you. That's all I really had. Hopefully we can open it up for any questions you might have. Hopefully I've given you some valuable insight as to hopefully engineering is what you dreamed it would be. So I'm open for any questions.
All right. Actually, hold on to your questions, because this actually begins the directed question portion of the series. So Rob, if you could take a seat. These are just some of the questions that were put together by the officers of ASME prior to this. And for all of your knowledge, an email was sent to all the speakers with some of the questions prior to this. So we expect snappy answers.
Okay, I'll do my best.
All right, let's get to the important question right out of the way. What was with the chicken soup?
The chicken soup, yeah. So I don't know if we really meant to do it, but the president of what's now Exelon, Philadelphia Electric Company, they're an electric company that controls all of southeastern Pennsylvania, and now they control Delaware and Maryland. They're pretty big. Anyway, he came to the plant because they're spending a lot of money on new filters and ion exchange resin for this system. And just to give you a picture of what this system is, it purifies the water that goes into the reactor. The reactor water has to stay very clean. If it doesn't stay very clean, things get radioactive and so forth. So he laid down the gauntlet and said, hey, listen, if we can get the average time between backwashes on these filter vessels to greater than 60 days, I'll come down here in a chicken soup and shake everybody's hand, and we'll have a big jubilee lunch. And so I said, do it yourself. That's a challenge. So it was kind of a journey. Talked to a lot of different filter vendors, ion exchange vendors. We looked at everything from start to finish and what we could improve. Bottom line is the average runs went up to 80 to 90 days. It took a lot of extra free overtime to do that, a lot of tenacity. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, so I thought I could change the world. And to some degree, it did really a little bit. And so, we saved over $1 million a year, and sure enough, the guy was good to his word. I got my picture taken with the CEO of now Exelon in a chicken soup. So that was like a little highlight of my career.
All right.
Sorry for a long-winded answer, but
that's fine. How difficult was it for you to become a professional engineer?
It was difficult. One of the bullets says do the studying. I flunked the EIT and had to come back and pass it. And then I turned around and flunked the PE exam and had to come back and pass that after I took the review course. Right? So let me not try to wow you with all of my intelligence, because I don't have any extraordinary intelligence. It takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness, lot of tenacity, a lot of stubbornness, and which I'm very stubborn. So what I did is I went out in the state forest in my car. I turned off the radio. I turned off my phone. I broke out all my study materials, and I just studied. Saturday after Saturday after Saturday for I think it was about 12 months. And I went in and crushed the exam after that. So I had underestimated it before, so don't do that. That was back in the days when you took pencil and paper exams. Now they're computer-based, so I don't know if it's any different now.
All right, moving on. Well, I understand that the PE exam was a bit of a struggle for you,
Yep.
but what has been your greatest struggle in your engineering career?
Greatest struggle was communicating. Probably in the early part of my career, I tried to be more of an engineer than anything else, and that was a mistake. And let me explain that. Is you can be the best engineer, you can be a genius, you can have all the best ideas, and you can solve problems really quickly. But if you can't communicate to other people your ideas and your concepts and your all that, it's useless. It's absolutely useless. If you think you're going to get through your career by being the guy in the back of the corner of the room just doing calculations, you're in for a miserable career. Okay, so get good. Get all the practice. Go to Toastmasters, okay, and practice learning how to talk to people and make presentations, because you're going to make a lot of them. Okay, so if you're a 4.0, 4.5 grade point average at the University of Delaware, magna cum laude, and you come in front of a room of your peers and senior management, and you just fall on your face presenting something, they're going to think you're an absolute idiot. Okay, and your career, you know, it's just going to stall. It's going to go backwards. Okay, so don't overlook that piece. Learn how to deal with people. Have a good bedside manner. Consider everybody's, thought, how they're stand in their shoes, how they're looking at it, and then help them visualize things. So I underestimated that early part of my career. And I can't, the people that move up, advancing their careers and get, rich and rewarding careers are the people that come up the communication curve, the presentations curve, and just talking one-on-one with somebody curve better. And one other recommendation, to get where you need to be with that, two things. One, practice at Toastmasters, how to present things to people. And number two, take the Dale Carnegie class. Okay, Google it on the internet. Take it. Okay, it might cost you $1,800, but take it. It's invaluable in teaching you how to effectively deal with people every day.
Okay, that's something worth noting. All right, what was your proudest moment in your career?
Okay, so I would have to say the proudest moment was the main turbine, which is, like I said, an 1,100 megawatt machine at Oak Creek. It was vibrating too much. It was like 4 to 7 mils vibration. It was pretty big, and it had existed for a long time, and a lot of things in the turbine building were just literally shaking. Handrails would shake, and people in the control room would hear it, and it was pretty visible. And I was the owner of the machine, so everybody's looking at me and saying, "Hey, Rob, what are you doing about this?" So I got myself through General Electric balancing school. It's a General Electric turbine, and I calculated a balance correction prescription, if you will. I put this many weights here at this angle, all the way from the front end of the machine to the back. It's a 205-foot long machine. It's got 3 low-pressure sections and 1 high-pressure section. I computed those. They said, okay, before we put this in, because these weights could wreck this machine, all right, and if the vibration goes too high, we could wake the bearings. We're going to have somebody independent come in and check your work. I said, hey, by all means, have them do that. Brought an independent guy in. Have you ever balanced a large turbine? No, but I bounce machines all the time. I've never balanced a machine this size, but here's your balance machine. This is my independent balance. Look at mine, look at his, and his is always 180 degrees out. Okay. So what are we going to do about this? Yours disagrees with this guy. I said, this guy, I don't know what planet he's come from, but it isn't right. I don't know. Work it out with the guy. make sure you come to a compromise. How can you compromise? A weight's either in the right place or it isn't, right? You're either gonna weight the machine out or you're not, right? So, long story short, the maintenance director finally came up to me and he said, look, what are we doing with this thing? I said, if you put that guy's balance shot in, I'm not standing next to that machine, I'm out of here, because you're gonna have pieces flying out the parking lot. He said, well, Rob, if you say that, I'm not putting this shot in yet, I'm gonna put yours in. Okay, so I'm standing on the turbo deck, we're putting the weights in, this guy is screaming in my ear, I'm not like this machine. And by the way, this machine, when it's down, it's $1 million a day to replace that power. That's what it costs. Not only did you wreck the machine, but you now do $1 million a day, okay? Plus, you gotta fix the machine, which might take a couple months because you wipe the bear, right? So I'm hearing this, and so I'm like, put the weights in, and now I gotta focus, right? I gotta, yes, that degree, yeah, put it there. While this guy's yakking, I was, get this guy out there. Anyway, we roll the machine up. We've got all the balance, vibration monitoring equipment on this machine. We roll it up, and the average vibration on every bearing is about 4 mils less than it was. And shaking the plant manager's hand and him smiling. That's got to be one of the highlights of my career. Go ahead. I'm sorry to be so.
Oh no, let's talk. Interesting story. All right. This one's going to speak more to the person right out of college. Is it difficult to earn a position in a field you have no prior work experience with, mostly pertaining to when you were only a few years into your post-graduation career?
Yes, it is. The first question out of everybody's mouth is, do you have any experience with this? No, I don't. Well, I'll see it, right? You probably run into that already somewhere. Right? And I ran into those brick walls too. All you need is one job, right? You only need is one guy to say yes. So how I found it was, you look in the jobs, and I actually found it through my school. There was a company hiring, and the title of the position was new hires. So I interviewed for it, and Providence shone on me, and I got the job. But that was just the starting point, right? And when you first start, you've got no credibility. They don't know who you are. They don't know how to spell your name. They don't know where you come from. So you pretty much got to earn your chops first, right? So.
All right. Well, Rob, have you ever conducted interviews before?
Yes. Like I said, I owned an engineering firm for 4 years. I hired some folks.
Okay. What are the top attributes / characteristics you are looking for from students to portray? I'm looking for someone that is sober. And what I mean is they don't think too high of themselves, but yet they don't think too low of themselves. They have a realistic outlook, right? And I can talk to them. Give me an average student that has a lot of stick-to-itiveness, doesn't give up, and a good attitude. And I can go anywhere with that guy, and we can go anywhere together. But if you got a 4.5 QM average, right, and you come in on your pedestal, and and you're not approachable, you got a chip on your shoulder, the attitude, that just genuinely show somebody that, look, I'm willing to learn. I'm showing you I have the ability to learn because I got my degree. I did pretty well there, and I'm ready to learn. Be humble. Don't be condescending, but be humble. Okay. Sort of to develop on that, what are you looking for in your coworkers?
Just respect. Just listen to my ideas. I'll listen to yours. There's no islands out there. We all need each other. Just recognize the fact that we all need each other. No one can do this alone. With that kind of approach, I can go.
What led you to your current employment? I heard that you had your own engineering firm at one point, and the recession hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me give you a thumbnail sketch. So I was in the nuclear industry for better part of 19 years.
And I was always working for a utility. I was always working for somebody else, right? And then if you remember back in the late 2000s, from 2005 to say 2008, there was a construction boom in this area. You know, there's a lot of stuff getting built. And long story short, there was a lot of demand for licensed professional engineers. I have a buddy, he's a civil engineer, and as you know, civil is closely related to mechanical. And I learned on Saturdays and evenings from him how to do certain work. And so I learned how to do that kind of work. And so if you're a developer, I can get your subdivision approved for you. I can get your mall approved for you, which I did. You know, I designed the drainage systems, the roads, the environmental aspects of the site. But then in late 2008, you know, Lehman Brothers collapsed. None of my clients could borrow money anymore, and basically the future of work dried up. So what led me to my present job or mission is I had a lot of buddies back in nuclear, right? So I called one of my buddies up at Sergeant one day. I knew he worked there. I had his number. And I said, hey, you guys got anything for me up there? And he's like, hey, send me your resume, we'll see what happens. That's a polite brush off to me. I mean, okay, whatever. So I just kept doing what I was doing, trying to figure out what it. And 2 weeks later, he called me back and said, hey, are you just kidding me? You know, you just stroking me? What? Are you serious or not? I said, look, I'll be there Monday with my resume, and we'll go from there, if that's okay. And he said, yeah. So I came up there, and I walked down the cubicles of the desk, and all my old buddies walked out and shook my hand. It was like a home run. And I said, man, I must be in the right place. And so I went and saw the big guy, and we worked out a package. And I've been there, 6 years since.
Yeah. Always nice to feel welcomed, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm going to allude to something that you haven't mentioned and I didn't read off.
Okay.
Excuse me. I'm aware that Rob Blomquist here is the president of the Delaware section of ASME. So the next question pertains to that. What benefits have there been, have you attained from being a member of ASME?
Numerous. The three biggest ones I can think of are what's important as a licensed engineer or any kind of engineer really is to stay abreast of what's going on in your profession. Right? And the best way to do that is not be a drone looking at some screen, right? Sitting on your tail looking at some webinar or whatever. I hate that. That's to me, that's just mindless. So I want to meet people. I want to talk to people. I want to talk to guys like you guys and find out what's going on. You know, what's hot out there. What motivates you guys. You know, and then we bring people in sort of like this, right? And they give speeches on maybe the vibration of a compressor. One guy stood up in front of us a few months back and told us about how he fixed a compressor. Another guy told us how he designed jet fighters. Really informative, captivating, interesting information. And then, well, we need that because we need to get credits so that we can maintain our license. So ASME is a forum to get all that done. That ASME sends you to different conferences on, how to be a leader, for one thing. Just what the latest is in whatever you're doing. Like there's a turbo machinery workshop, like say in Baltimore, and I'll be sent there by ASME perhaps. So rather than being a mindless drone behind a screen, I want to go meet people. I want to see the presentations. I want to maintain my license, and most of all, I want to have a forum to help bring younger ones up through the profession. I noticed that in my son's elementary school, none of the kids knew what an engineer was. They had never heard of it. These were like fifth graders, and to me, that's a failure. STEM is failing. If they don't even know what an engineer does or is or anything, they get all their inputs from television or something. I don't know, but obviously, people like me aren't doing a good enough job getting selling the profession out to the young folks. And they say, well, who cares? Well, our national security hangs in the balance. Engineers are in a large part protecting our national security. That's no joke. And just like a cyber engineer, for example. What's the first thing you do when you want to, say, defend against another country? The first thing they do is they get the cyber engineers busy doing a cyber attack on the enemy, right? They jam all the computers first, and then they send the bombs. They send fighter jets. So, and that's a very direct thing, but indirectly, we protect the infrastructure, we innovate, we keep the country on the leading edge of technology.
Okay. Excuse me. All right. Got 3 more questions. They're all a bit of softballs, but I'll let you hit them anyway.
Okay.
All right. What got you into engineering?
I guess my fascination with my car. I can't tell you that I was always intrigued on why did the guy design it that way? Why is the piston this big? Why is the head gasket out of that material? That sort of stuff. And then I worked some menial jobs at DuPont. My dad was a DuPont machinist, and I worked summer work there. And my job was to put labels on packages. Right? I said, Self, I ain't doing this. I want to be the guy designing that machine that's producing these cartons. I want to be that guy. And then I had another job where my job was to get up to here in mud and strip forms off of culvert, headers. And it was like 95 degrees and horseflies were biting me in the head. And I said, Self, I don't want to do this. And I think I'm going to go to school.
Okay. If you weren't an engineer, what profession would you be? I know that's a bit of a strange question. You never looked back, did you?
I didn't, but I think I might be here. Would have been in like graphic design. I like creating stuff, make it look good, well, make it look interesting, and make it look attractive to people.
All right. One last question, then I'll open it up to audience questions. What would you have changed about your college experience?
I would have, well, I don't know what I would change, but let me think about that. Well, if I could have, I would have just stayed in school and not try to work a job and get a degree. I would have just focused on the degree work, get that done, and then get into the career. Because I wasn't able to focus on getting the academic grades as high as I wanted them because my attention span was split so many different ways. I would have liked to have done better, grades-wise. If I had that to do over again, I would try to do that. But and the reason why I stuttered a little bit and hesitated a little bit is I met a cute girl and my college career changed a bit. I had to go get a job. So that's another story.
All right.
It is what it is.
All right. We'll now open up questions to the audience. Please feel free. All right. Come on, guys. I know there's something you're dying to ask.
Go ahead.
Are you only a PE in Delaware, or do you have your Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey?
So yeah, I'm licensed in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. The way it works is when you pass your PE exam, you can apply for what's called common leave in other states. And most states will reciprocate with the state you got your license in. I passed my exam up in Clayton Hall, just up the road. And by the way, what an experience that was. There was a guy in there, okay, this little story. He brought you can bring what you want, right? He brought his coffee maker into the exam room, and he did nothing but sip coffee the whole time. I'm sure he meant to start doing his exam, but that's an attest to the stress that the exam can bring, and that was his way of coping with it, I suppose. But the last time I took the test, for example, I opened the booklet and started going through the questions, right? And the first, I think it's by design, they hit you with the hardest things, right? And I'm like, no way, no way, no way. And I'm 10 minutes into this thing, and I hadn't even raised my pencil right? And I'm like, I can't, there's no way I can do it, right? And the hair on the back of my neck literally started going up. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I need to just walk out of here, right? But then I opened up to the HVAC and the thermodynamic and power plant design questions, right? And I said, I got that one, I got that one, I got that one, and I just flew at that point, right? So it's as psychological as it is technical. They're trying to throw you off balance. And that's why I needed to take the review course, because they give you the strategies. It's as much about the technical piece as it is the strategy, right? And psyching yourself up and getting ready for this thing. Because you have 2 minutes per question, right? And you, in other words, you can't afford to be the conscientious engineer that spends 20 minutes with one question to make sure that you sifted every which way for 20 minutes and make sure you got it right. You don't have that time. It's at some point you either know it cold and you go with the gut, or you're not gonna. It's 20 minutes per question. It's not gonna fly. Right?
All right. Do we have any other questions? Come on, guys.
Wow.
I brought a PE here for you.
Go ahead.
You made it sound like there weren't a whole lot of PEs in the professional business. Is that true?
In mechanical, there's not as much as civil, and I've never understood why that's so, because if you notice, if you go to take the exam, right, here it's graphically laid out for you. The line into the room to take the civil PE exam is a mile long. It's going out back and forth, right? The line to take the mechanical exam, there might have been 50 of us, right? There might have been 200 for the civil, right? You find yourself in the civil world, you can't even practice without a license, right? And I really don't understand that, why that is. And no, there isn't as many PEs as there could be, I suppose. Because I told my employer, Sergeant Lennon, I said, I haven't used my license in quite some time in Pennsylvania. Why don't I just put that on an inactive status? Because no sense paying the license fee every year, if you're not gonna. He said, no, you ain't. He says, you're only one of a few in the office that have a license in Pennsylvania. You gotta keep it. So, yeah, it's relatively few. And I think mostly because, I don't want to give you the impression that you can't do it. But, with tenacity, anybody can do it, I think. But it's a lot of work, and maybe that's why there's so few. I don't know.
All right. Yes.
How many years of experience you need before taking the key exam, or you just?
Okay, so when you pass your engineering training exam in your junior year or your senior year of college, you start a clock. And it's like a minimum of 4 years clock that you need to demonstrate that you worked for a licensed professional engineer and show that you actually did design or engineering work during that period of time. And the bar isn't so high for that, all you need is somebody to sign for you. A licensed professional engineer says, yeah, he worked for me for 40 years. He's a good guy. Let's take the test. So it's a minimum of 4 years, but you can see it took me 15 years to even get started. I'll tell you a little story. So there I was. I was working for Public Service Electric and Gas. I was a turbine engineer at Oak Creek. And my buddy was telling me, listen, you're missing out on a lot of stuff. You could call your own shot. You could be in your own business. Why don't you get your license? So finally I said, all right, I'll get my license. So I went through the long journey to get my license. I finally got it. Let me back up a little bit. My wife is a jokester, by the way. And so I'm working for PSE&G. And by the way, I'm not licensed. And to some degree, I'm getting pushed around, because I'll give you the raw, okay, the skinny. These guys, these senior managers, I know their mentality was, where's he going to go? If I throw a little dirt on his lap, where's he going to go, right? And I was getting tired of it. So I said, well, I'd like to call my own shot. Who wouldn't want to run their own business, right? So, I told you once, I failed it the first time, right? So I took another bite at the apple, right? I studied for a year in the state forest, like I told you. And so I was done taking the exam for the second time, and the proctor said, listen, you know, if you get your results, you know, within 2 weeks, it might not be too good, because what we're trying to do is tell you that you failed so that you have enough time to study for the next taking of the exam in April. I'm like, okay, so I'm at work, working free overtime, right? It's like 9 o'clock at night, and I get a phone call. It's my wife. She said, hey, I got this letter from Professional Engineers Society of Delaware. Do you want me to open it? And I'm like, yeah, and here comes the music, you know. I might as well just take it like a man, you know. And so she starts reading the letter. She says, dear Bob, congratulations, you have passed it. I said, stop, right there, stop. Well, what do you mean? Don't joke with me. Don't be kidding. This is very serious. This is not funny. She's like, no. I said, fax it to me. So as I saw this letter roll off the fax machine, and I started actually reading the words, I knew my life would change. It was very exhilarating. Very exhilarating. And it was the next month I was in business with myself.
All right, I believe we have time for just one more question. One more question? All right.
Go ahead.
You mentioned paying a license fee for having your license. Do you pay that, or does your employer pay that?
It's like $100. Yeah, I pay it, and you know, they treat me pretty well. So it's sort of covered. I don't know even though I might be able to get reimbursed for it. I'm not even sure. But you know what? If I want to walk out and do my own thing one day, you know, because I see an opportunity to go in my own business. Maybe I invented something, right? And I want to promote it, start my own company again. I'm free to just walk out that door. I don't owe you anything. I paid up. I made my license for myself. To some degree, I still look at myself as the Bob Blomquist Corporation, right? Yeah, I happen to be working for Sergeant Lundy, and I'm loyal to them, and I'm dedicated, and I give them all my efforts and stuff. But you know what? You know, at the end of the day, I'm looking at myself as a company, and you should too.
All right. Before we go and thank Mr. Blomquist, I want to go and put in a plug for our next speaker series. Our next speaker is Alexis Cox. She's a graduate of the University of Delaware. She currently works for Gore at the Gore Capability Center. She'll be here October 9th. It's going to be very exciting. And to thank Mr. Blomquist for coming, we'd like to present him on behalf of ASME with a proctoring pencil.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
The case is,
yes, the case is custom made by us here at the University of Delaware.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.